Hello guys, welcome to Aniswift TV. Our story starts off with a man, Akatsuki, confronting maids in the forest. They tied him up, but he pulls them to him. He knocks out one and steals the bras of the other. He gets surrounded by more maids. They tell him to stay, but he refuses and says he's going to return to his own world. They attack him, but he jumps in the air and throws down all their undergarments in a magnificent display, scaring away the women. He continues to a ruin where he finds a princess. She compliments him for reaching so far and begs him to stay. He tells her that he has already defeated the demon lord, so he must return home. She begins to cry and he kisses her. She slaps him and walks away. He tells her if she ever needs help again, call him, then enters a portal. He gets home and pulls the bag, revealing a woman of huge personalities, Miu, inside. In the morning they drive to school. Akatsuki tells Miu to pretend that she is his long-lost sister. She puts her head down and he tells her to be more confident. She sits up and her assets overpowers her clothes. At school, they run tests on the fake sibling. Miu is worried that they will find out that she is not from this world, but Akatsuki tells her it is okay. The doctor comes in and clears them. They walk to a training area. The trainer tells them to pick a weapon. Miu picks up a sword, but Akatsuki hands are rated E for everyone. The trainer challenges Miu to a fight. She casts a spell, knocking him into a wall, defeating him. The medics arrive to pick up the trainer, when a man suddenly approaches and challenges Akatsuki to a fight. A giant ice pillar comes out of the floor, but he grabs Miu and dodges. He tells Akatsuki that he will pass the test if he can shatter the pillar. He agrees, but Miu warns him, saying it's filled with magic. Akatsuki punches the pillar and the white hair man tells them they have passed. At home, Akatsuki treats her to a feast. It is revealed that Miu is the daughter of the demon king that Akatsuki ended, but before he passed he asked him to take care of his daughter and be her guardian. In the night, Miu cries over the loss of her father. She stands over Akatsuki and casts Amaterasu. He suddenly gets up and throws her on the bed. He gets on top of her while sleepwalking and unclothes her. She calls him brother, but he tells her his sister has died, then plays with her melons while she screams in ecstasy until she grabs the clock and breaks it. The next day, they walk to school. Akatsuki sits in a random seat when a red-haired man enters and tells him to get out of his chair. Akatsuki kicks him through the door, then grabs his head. He prepares to squash him, but Miu stops him. The discipline committee arrives and brings him to the office. The council arrives and sees him sitting in the president's chair. They tell him to get up, but he refuses. The white-haired man walks in and Akatsuki decides it's on site. The council casts spells, but he dodges and blocks them all. The green-hair girl says that his actions broke the rules, but Akatsuki says he just put a bully down. She tells him next time he will face consequences, then kicks him out. He tries to go back in, but his class president stops him. They leave and enter the hall when the green-hair girl flies to them. Akatsuki reveals he took a trophy. She takes out her weapons and attacks him. He takes another reward from her, brightening the world. They go to change for physical education when they suddenly hear a strange noise and find Mrs. Steal Your Girl having fun with a baddie. The student council scolds her and her playmate runs away, slamming the door and trapping them in the room. They decide to wait for someone to come and free them. The student president wants to pee, but she is embarrassed and begins to cry. Akatsuki comes in and says he has a solution. He tells them to stand up and he pokes their stomachs, causing them to also want to pee. He tells them there is nothing to be embarrassed about if all of them want to gush. He bites the ear of the class president, causing a chain reaction resulting in a golden shower surprise. The door is then opened and they run out after giving him a beating. In the morning, he prepares breakfast, but Miu turns away. They walk to school, but she refuses to speak to him. At school, Miu sits and wonders where the class president is. Girl boss tells her that she was called to the council's office to answer for what Akatsuki did. She suddenly walks into class. They ask her what happened, but she says it's none of their business and leaves. Akatsuki follows her on the elevator and asks what he can do to help. She tells him that the council wants her to spy on him, but she is planning to leave and go back to her old school. He tells her not to quit and takes her to a hotel. Miu and girl boss sees them and enter as well. Inside, Akatsuki paralyzes her and goes over her. She thinks he's about to catch a charge and sits up, but he hugs her and tells her to never give up and to stand up for herself. They exit the room and see Miu and Girl Slayer having fun. They ask what happened between Akatsuki and the loli, then attack him. The next day, they begin weapons training. Miu conjures a staff, but Akatsuki can't bring out his weapon. The trainer tells them to begin. Akatsuki challenges the bully to a fight. He refuses, but Akatsuki tells him he can't conjure a proper weapon, then he agrees. They start a 1v1 with the bully using a fire spell. Akatsuki dispels it. He panics and throws his weapons, but they are blocked. He tries to cast another spell, but Akatsuki puts his sword at the bully's breather, defeating him. He takes his victim's handband and his sword is conjured for a second, then disappears. A raid boss begins to go wild. Miu's team casts a combination spell capturing it. The bird absorbs their magic, then shoots out feathers. The best girl blocks them for Miu and they get turned to stone. Miu uses her staff to defend the statues when Akatsuki shows up and knocks it into a wall. He summons his weapon and blocks the bird's feathers, but one of his arms are turned to stone. He slashes the chicken, then gives it brain surgery, defeating the monster. He goes off and confronts the student who caused the incident. He kicks Akatsuki, then they both conjure their weapons. He gets Akatsuki with an air combo, then drops his body to the floor. He approaches his body, but Akatsuki wakes up and attacks him. He begins to cast a spell on the building to end everyone inside the school. Akatsuki asks him why he wants to be a schoolcaster. The student says that after they graduate they will be sent to battlefields to fight wars and destroy, so by ending them early he would be saving many lives in the future. He's about to activate a spell when an ice pillar comes out of the floor and traps him inside. The white-haired man walks in. Akatsuki says he doesn't have time to deal with him and heads to Miu. He finds her helping the injured students. She suddenly falls unconscious. Miu wakes up and Akatsuki heals her. He tells her that she can cry over the passing of her father. She says she is not sad, but he encourages her not to hide her feelings since he was the one who put him in a pack. She holds him and begins to grieve. In the morning, her milkshakes overpowered her clothes and she decides to go shopping. She heads to the bathroom to bathe and find Akatsuki doing training practices on the ceiling. At school, Miu asks her friends to take her shopping while Akatsuki is confronted by a yellow-haired man. He tries to punch him, but he blocks it. They begin to fight. Akatsuki trips him and he apologizes before he got a facelift. Later on, they bring Miu to the mall to go shopping. Best girl instantly locates the underwear store. They go inside and try to send away Akatsuki, but Miu wants him to stay. The employee puts her in a vice grip. She tries to take it off, but the bra rips. Akatsuki reveals that he is inside the stall and tells her to confess what happened. The employee enters the stall and scolds Akatsuki for being in the booth alone with her. He tells her that the bra was too small and sends her for another. While the employee is gone, Akatsuki makes Miu's melons bigger, causing the bigger bra to fit. The employee apologizes for her mistake, but Akatsuki confesses what he did and takes the blame for the torn bra. Miu steps up and says she was at fault. Her bra suddenly becomes translucent and embarrasses her. Akatsuki steals all the girls' valuables and throws them in a dressing room. He grabs 2 hands full of heaven, then Miu comes in and hits him over the head. Later, they have dinner and decide to make a 4-man team for the upcoming school test. They walk home in the rain when the blonde man confronts him and brings him to a mechanic shop. He shows him a racetrack and introduces him to an old man fixing a car. The man tells him to make Akatsuki test if he can tame the bike. He touches it and gets blown back. They tell him that the bike won't let anyone ride it. They reveal that the last person to tame the bike was Akatsuki's dad. He decides that he will tame the bike. Moments later, he rides the bike around the racetrack, breaking the sound barrier. The student council comes and tells him that there have been many noise complaints. The old man takes the blame and tells him to ride it home. The counselor says she is going to confiscate the bike and touches it and lose all her clothes. She suddenly gets a call and flies away wearing Akatsuki's jacket. Tourist who causes terror holds a little one hostage on the roof. She begins to cry and Akatsuki comes in to rearrange his face. He is scolded by the counselor, but he walks away as the little one's mother thanks her for saving her offspring. Later on, the counselor comes to his home and returns his jacket. The next day, Miu picks out clothes to go to the beach. At the beach, the girls show off their clothes. Miu hides, but then comes out showing off her DXDs. They meet the blonde student. He tells them about an event and they decide to participate. They play reverse tag and decide Akatsuki will be it. He runs away, dodging all his attackers while taking souvenirs, incapacitating his opponents. Miu team think of a way to stop the deviant. They use magic on him, but he dodges and rushes toward them. He grabs at the queen's boobs but falls into a trap. He digs under the pit and comes up taking best girl's bra, then goes to take the innocence of the lowly, but the blonde stops him, preventing him from catching a charge. He decides to go after the counselor. She hides in the girl's shower, but he follows her inside. He gets distracted by an angel and she takes the chance to charge at him, but she slips on a soap. He catches her and takes his prize. Miu sits far into the ocean, but Akatsuki senses her booby power and confronts her. She tries to dive underwater, but he goes under and grabs paradise. The announcer reveals that they are disqualified because they are too far out in the water, and he grabs her and jumps away. The next day, they get ready for a school test. The president greets Akatsuki. He tells the president that he is going to fight him. He tells Akatsuki that he won't be participating in the match because he has a meeting, but he says if Akatsuki makes it to the end of the fights they can 1v1. Their clothes then transform for combat and Miu is embarrassed for being a walking fan service. They go around fighting other teams, Akatsuki calls them out and they reveal themselves, then gets one shot. In the night they sit by a campfire, the counselor comes to them and asks Akatsuki for a 1v3, he accepts and they prepare to fight. The counselor attacks, but he dodges, she jumps in the air but he uses a Getsuga Tensho and hit her to the floor. He points his sword at her, then he is hit by fire magic, he dispels it and they prepare to jump him, he paralyzes them then prepares to get a triple kill. The blonde interrupts them and tells Akatsuki someone has invaded their test. A blast suddenly goes off where Miu was at and he rushes to her. Miu is confronted by a man dressed in armor, he announces that he has come to bring her back to her homeland. Akatsuki arrives seeing that Miu is gone, he finds the bodies of Miu's party, they tell him that a man from another world is chasing her, he heals them then tells the counselor to bring them to the doctor. Akatsuki walk off to find Miu, the knight chases her but the bully steps in to save her, he uses a fire skill but it has no effect, the knight speed blitz the bully and punches him but it was an illusion. He tells the knight that he is a new man since Akatsuki saved his life, the knight blasts him away then continues to chase Miu. He wakes up to see Akatsuki healing him. He tells him to leave him alone, Akatsuki calls out the blonde to take the bully to the doctor's office. Miu reaches a dead end and is confronted by the knight, he reveals that he plans to bring her home for a public execution. She begins to cry and Akatsuki arrives. He knocks him away with his sword then they rush at each other and clash blades, he knocks Akatsuki away but he uses an air slash then pushes him back, the knight begins using magic but they get deflected. Akatsuki uses a spirit bomb, the knight tries to block it and gets knocked into a wall, he stands back up and receives an uppercut, the knight speeds off and takes Miu hostage. He tells him to throw away his weapon. Akatsuki asks why he want to end Miu, the knight says to be a proper hero he has to slay a demon king, Akatsuki taunts him and he tries to stab him in his breather but Akatsuki is the throat goat and blocks it. He proceeds to give the knight a facelift then puts him in the ground. Miu runs away and tells Akatsuki that she doesn't belong in this world because if she stays on Earth her friends will be in danger but if she returns home she will be hunted. She jumps off a cliff then tries to breathe water but Akatsuki jumps in and rescues her. He scolds her for taking the easy way out and for disrespecting her father's legacy, he tells her to fight but she says she can't. He tells her he will fight for her and she is not alone since they are a team, she tells him she doesn't belong anywhere but he says that it doesn't matter where she is, it only matters who she is with, then he kisses her. Akatsuki falls down revealing that the knight poisoned him, she sucks out the poison then undresses him so he doesn't freeze. He fills his hands with happiness and massages her to completion. She realizes he is awake and slaps him. They walk back when the knight confronts them, he transforms into a dragon, Akatsuki wants to fight him but Miu stops him and decides to be the decoy while he heals. The class president finds Akatsuki. He tells them what happened and they say they're going to be decoys as well. Miu uses wind magic on the monster but it has no effect, it is about to end her but the counselor comes to her rescue, she rushes the monster. They begin ganging the raid boss and it tries to fly away but Miu uses wind magic to stop it, the class president comes down and hits it while Best Girl shoots it with arrows. The monster shoots lasers but Best Girl puts an end to that shit. They summon 2 rock golems that jump on the monster, then they light it on fire. Miu gets ready to use her father's special move then slashes the dragon with a lightning sword. It's revealed the dragon took no damage and it explodes knocking out all Miu's allies. The dragon tells her it's time for her to return home, she gets ready to fight, but he tells her he will smoke her friends if she refuses. She surrenders to the monster and he picks her up. She tells the dragon he will never be a hero like Akatsuki even if he was to bring her home and hang her from the highest tower, the dragon says I'd bet and begins to bring her home. While telling her that he's going to enjoy watching her pass. Akatsuki cuts off his tentacle and tells her to take the others to safety, the savage dragon casts a spell but he nullifies it with Getsuga Tensho. He omni slashes the dragon but it hits him into a wall, it flies up and unleashes a torrent of spells, the dragon leaves his height advantage and rushes at Akatsuki, he takes his sword and pokes the stupid dragon and tosses it to the floor. It gets up and Akatsuki reveals he has been doing internal damage, they begin charging their attacks and the clash causes an explosion. Akatsuki protects everyone from the blast but he loses his weapon in the process. Miu walks to him and gives him her weapon maker and the counselor does the same. He punches the dragon then calls out his sword, the dragon breathes laser at him, he swims through the laser then slices the dragon in half. Miu comes to his side and he turns around and smiles. The next day, Miu reveals to her friends where she came from. She is nervous, so Akatsuki gives her a helping hand. They send out Akatsuki and she tells them the story. He walks in and tells them that he's going back to the other world to finish what they started, and his harem says they will follow him. He begins a transportation spell when the counselor and the blonde comes in and joins them. A blast of light goes off that brings them to Miu's home. That will be all for today. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. I hid a Pokeball somewhere in this video. Think you can find it?